The stars had never looked so cold. Admiral Park Jin-ho stood at the observation window of the orbital station New Seoul, watching the pale blue marble that was once home to 8 billion souls. Earth still turned. Earth still caught the sunlight. But even from orbit, he could see the brown scars where green forests once stood. He could see the gray patches where cities had been. 3 years ago, that world was alive. Now it was a graveyard. Behind him, the command center hummed with quiet activity. Officers moved between stations. Screens flickered with data. But there was no laughter here. No casual conversation. Everyone who served on New Seoul had lost someone. Most had lost everyone. Jin-ho touched the glass. It was cold against his fingers. He remembered his daughter's laugh. His son's first steps. His wife's voice calling him home for dinner. Gone, all gone. Dissolved in the poison clouds the Veth had dropped from orbit. 6 billion humans had died in 7 days. The Veth had not asked for surrender. They had not made demands. They had simply come to harvest. A door opened behind him. He did not turn. Admiral. The voice belonged to Counselor No Sumin. She was 55 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. She was the last surviving member of the Old Earth Council. The Assembly's envoy has transmitted their final offer. Jin-ho finally turned. Tell me. Sumin held a data tablet. Her hands were steady, but her voice carried the weight of difficult words. Protected species status. Full integration into the Galactic Assembly. They will relocate survivors to suitable worlds. They will provide resources for rebuilding, medical support, education, everything we need to start again. And in return, disarmament. Complete and permanent. We surrender all military vessels. We agree to never develop weapons beyond personal defense. We accept Assembly oversight of our population growth and territorial expansion. She paused. They want to protect us, Jin-ho, like endangered animals in a preserve. Jin-ho was quiet for a long moment. Through the window, he could see a cargo ship moving toward the lunar base. Supplies for the survivors. Food grown in orbital farms. Water recycled 1,000 times. Humanity had been reduced to scraps, clinging to rocks in the void. How many species voted for this offer? He asked. 47 in favor. 3 abstained. None opposed? And how many of those 47 spoke against the Veth when they came for us? Sumin lowered her eyes. None. The word hung in the air like smoke. Jin-ho walked to the central console. Around him, officers stopped their work. They knew this moment was coming. They had been waiting for it. Open a channel, Jin-ho said. All stations. All ships. All colonies. Every human who can hear my voice. The communications officer's fingers flew across her console. Channel open, Admiral. You're broadcasting to approximately 1.2 billion survivors. Jin-ho stood straight. He was not a tall man, but in that moment he seemed to fill the room. My name is Park Jin-ho. 3 years ago, I was a father, a husband, and a naval officer. Today I'm what the Veth made me. A survivor. Like all of you. His voice carried across the void. It reached lunar bases and asteroid colonies. It found hidden ships and underground bunkers. It touched every human ear that still lived. The Galactic Assembly has offered us protection. They offer us safety. They offer us a quiet corner of the galaxy where we can live out our days as a broken people, grateful for the mercy of those who watched our world burn and did nothing. He paused. Let the word settle. I say no. In the command center, no one breathed. The Veth did not offer us mercy. They did not ask if we wanted to die. They came with poison and fire, and they killed our children in their beds. They killed our elderly in their homes. They killed everyone they could find, and when they were done, they moved on to find more prey. Because that is what we were to them? Prey, resources, meat? His voice grew harder. The Assembly watched. 47 species with fleets and armies and power beyond our imagination. They watched Earth die. They sent no ships. They fired no weapons. They made no demands of the Veth, and now they offer us protection? He shook his head. I do not want their protection. I want the Veth to know fear. I want them to wake in the night and wonder if today is the day we come for them. I want every species in this galaxy to understand that humanity will not go quietly into extinction. We will not be prey. Not ever again. He looked directly into the camera. The Assembly offers us peace. I offer you vengeance. In 6 hours, every human over the age of 16 will vote. If you choose peace, I will surrender my command. I will accept the Assembly's terms. But if you choose vengeance, I will lead our fleet into Veth space, and I will make them pay for every life they stole. He let the silence stretch. They wanted to erase us from the stars. Let us show them what a terrible mistake that was. The broadcast ended. For 6 hours, humanity voted. The results came in from every corner of human space. From orbital stations and colony ships. From hidden bunkers on dead moons. From the broken survivors who had nothing left but their rage, 94% chose vengeance. That night, Captain Lee Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship. The silent wrath. She was 34 years old. She had lost her parents and her brother in the genocide. She had not smiled in 3 years. Through her viewport, she watched Earth grow smaller. The graveyard of her childhood shrank to a point of light. Then it was just another star among billions. She turned to her crew. 60 men and women. All of them orphans. All of them ghosts. Set course for Veth space, she said quietly. We're going hunting. The fleet moved into the darkness between stars. 200 ships crewed by those who had already died inside. The galaxy did not yet understand what was coming, but it would learn humanity had chosen, and the Veth would learn what that choice meant. The Veth patrol ship drifted through the darkness of Sector 9. Its crew of 40 had grown bored weeks ago. Nothing ever happened in the outer territories? No threats. No excitement. Just empty space and distant stars. Commander Vreth checked his sensors for the 100th time that day. Nothing. He yawned and turned to his second officer. Wake me if anything appears. I doubt it will. He never reached his quarters. The lights died first. Then the engines. Then the life support. The Veth crew scrambled in darkness, their shouts echoing through metal corridors. By the time emergency power flickered on, it was already over. The ship drifted, dead and cold. No distress signal was ever sent. When a supply vessel found it 3 days later, they discovered 40 Veth bodies frozen at their stations. There were no wounds, no signs of battle. They had simply stopped breathing. The supply vessel's captain reported the incident to High Command. It was the 19th such report that 6 months had passed since humanity vanished into the void. The galaxy believed them broken, hidden, dying slowly in some forgotten corner of space. The Veth certainly believed this. They had returned to their normal routines. Their fleets patrolled. Their merchants traded. Their empire continued its endless expansion, but ships kept disappearing. At first, it was easy to dismiss. Space was dangerous. Accidents happened. Equipment failed. Pirates lurked in empty systems. The Veth High Command filed reports and moved on. Then the pattern became impossible to ignore. Outposts went silent. Convoys vanished without trace. Listening posts stopped transmitting. And there was never any evidence. No wreckage. No bodies. No distress calls. Ships simply ceased to exist. Admiral Keth stood before the Veth Supreme Council, his gray skin pale with something that might have been fear. In 6 months we have lost 112 vessels. 37 outposts have gone dark. Our supply lines to the outer territories have been cut repeatedly. The Supreme Commander leaned forward on his throne. And the humans? No confirmed sightings. No communications intercepted. No battles reported. Keth swallowed. They are like ghosts, Supreme Commander. We cannot find them. We cannot fight them. We can only count our dead. Deep in the asteroid belt of an unnamed system, Lieutenant Choi Hanna reviewed her mission data. She was 28 years old, small and quiet, with eyes that noticed everything. Before the genocide, she had been an intelligence analyst. Now she was something else entirely. The device is planted, she reported through her encrypted channel. Cargo vessel Vreth 7. It will reach the Kethos supply hub in 9 days. Admiral Jinho's voice crackled through the static. Good work, Lieutenant. Return to base. Hannah ended the transmission and looked at her team. 4 soldiers in black suits, their faces hidden behind masks. They had spent 3 weeks living inside a Veth cargo container, breathing recycled air and eating nutrition paste. They had planted 12 devices on 12 ships. The Veth never knew they were there. This was humanity's war. Not a war of fleets and battles, a war of shadows. A war of fear. Captain Lee Yuna understood this better than anyone. Her ship, the Silent Wrath, had killed more Veth than any other vessel in the fleet, but she had never fired a single missile in open combat. Instead, she hunted. She waited. She struck from darkness and vanished before her prey knew they were dead. Tonight, she watched a Veth convoy through her targeting display. 6 cargo ships, 2 escort frigates, loaded with weapons bound for the frontier. Distance to target? She asked quietly. 12,000 kilometers, her tactical officer replied. They haven't detected us. Yuna studied the formation. The frigates flew close to the cargo ships. Standard protection pattern? Predictable. She had seen it 100 times. Deploy the drones. Pattern 7. 30 minutes later, the frigates exploded. The Veth crews never saw the weapons that killed them. Tiny drones, barely larger than a human fist, had attached to their hulls hours ago. They had waited patiently for Yuna's signal. The cargo ships tried to run. They did not get far when it was over. Yuna ordered her crew to collect the supplies, weapons, medicine, food. Humanity needed everything. They left no survivors. They left no evidence. The Veth would send search parties, and they would find only empty space. Word of the ghost fleet spread through Veth space like a disease. Soldiers whispered about ships that appeared from nowhere, about crews that died without wounds, about the humans who had somehow become more terrifying in defeat than they had ever been in battle. The Galactic Assembly grew concerned. They sent Ambassador Relis of the Mora to find the human fleet. It took him 2 months of searching. When he finally located Admiral Jinho's command ship, he was not prepared for what he found. The human fleet was not hiding. It was working. Ships moved with purpose. Crews trained constantly. Weapons were manufactured in mobile factories. This was not a broken people waiting to die. This was an army preparing for something terrible. Relis stood before Admiral Jinho in a small conference room. The human admiral was thin and gray, with eyes that held no warmth. The Assembly urges you to accept peace, Relis said carefully. This path leads only to more death. More suffering. The cycle of violence will consume you. Jinho listened without expression. You have made your point, Relis continued. The Veth are afraid. They know you can hurt them. Use this leverage, negotiate, find a way to coexist. Jinho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Ambassador, do you know what the Veth did to my daughter? Relis shifted uncomfortably. I have read the reports. Jinho smiled, but there was no humor in it. Reports say she died in the initial attack. They do not say how she screamed when the poison reached her lungs. They do not say how long it took. 3 minutes. I know because her school's security camera survived. I have watched the footage. Many times, Relis could not meet his eyes. The Veth made us into ghosts, Jinho said. They thought they killed us. They were wrong. We simply learned to live in the darkness, and now they will learn to fear it. Relis left the next morning. His report to the Assembly was brief. Humanity has not broken. They have transformed into something I do not recognize. They will not stop until the Veth are destroyed or they themselves are gone. There is no middle ground. There is no peace to be found. The Assembly read the report. They debated. They worried. But they did nothing, and in the darkness between stars, humanity continued its silent war. Ship by ship, outpost by outpost, the Veth Empire began to bleed. Dr. Kim, Taiho worked in his laboratory aboard the research vessel New Dawn. He was 45 years old, a former professor of molecular biology. Now he designed weapons. Specifically, he designed a weapon that would end the war. "The Spectre protocol is ready," he told Admiral Jinho during their weekly briefing. "It targets Veth biology specifically. Humans, other species, plants, animals all unaffected. Only the Veth will die." Jinho studied the data. "How quickly?" "Depending on delivery method, between 6 and 24 hours. They will simply stop breathing. Painlessly, if that matters." Jinho thought of his daughter's screams. "It doesn't," he said. "Prepare for mass production. Phase 4 begins soon." The silent war continued. But its purpose was changing. This was no longer about hurting the Veth. This was about positioning, preparing, waiting for the moment when shadows would become fire. And that moment was coming soon. The people of Kethos Prime woke to darkness at noon. 4 billion Veth lived on that world. It was the largest colony in their empire, second only to the homeworld itself. Cities stretched across 3 continents. Factories produced weapons for the endless expansion. Farms fed millions. Schools taught young Veth that they were the greatest species in the galaxy. That morning, they learned they were wrong. 200 human ships appeared in orbit without warning. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, surrounding the planet like a noose. The Veth defense fleet scrambled to respond, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. They had never expected an attack here. They had never imagined anyone would dare. Admiral Park Jinho broadcast on all frequencies. His voice reached every screen, every speaker, every device on Kethos Prime. "People of Kethos, my name is Park Jinho. 3 years ago, your species murdered 6 billion of mine. Today, I have come to collect what is owed." Panic spread through the cities. Civilians ran for shelters. Military commanders shouted orders. Politicians demanded explanations. But there was nothing to be done. The humans controlled the sky. Captain Lee Yuna sat on the bridge of her ship, watching the chaos below. She felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Only a cold emptiness that had lived inside her for 3 years. "Planetary defense grid is active," her tactical officer reported. 12 orbital stations. 800 ground-based weapons platforms. Yuna nodded. "Begin Phase 1. The first wave of missiles fell from orbit. They did not target cities. They did not strike civilian areas. They hit military bases, weapons factories, command centers. Each strike was precise. Each target was carefully chosen. The Veth had expected savages. They expected wild revenge. Instead, they faced cold, calculated destruction. General Beek Sunwoo commanded the ground invasion. He was 60 years old, a veteran of Earth's final defense. He had watched billions die while he fought hopeless battles against impossible odds. Now he led 50,000 soldiers down to the surface of an enemy world. "Rules of engagement are clear," he told his troops before the drop. "Military targets only. No civilian casualties unless absolutely necessary. We are not them. We will never be them." The landing was brutal. Veth defenders fought hard for their world. Street by street, building by building, the battle raged. But the humans had spent a year preparing for this moment. They knew every weakness. They had studied every defense. Captain Yuna led the assault on the main orbital defense station. Her team of 30 soldiers breached the hull and fought through corridors filled with smoke and screaming. She killed 14 Veth herself. When they reached the control room, she executed the station commander with a single shot. "Defense grid is down," she reported calmly. "The sky belongs to us." 11 days later, Kethos Prime fell. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. News spread across 1,000 worlds. The humans had done the impossible. They had conquered a major Veth colony. And they had done it with terrifying efficiency. But what happened next confused everyone. Admiral Jinho did not order a massacre. He did not burn the cities. He did not execute prisoners. Instead, he established order. Human soldiers patrolled the streets, but they did not harm civilians. Food was distributed. Medical care was provided. Schools remained open. The Veth could not understand. This was not how conquered peoples behaved. This was not revenge. This was something else. Jinho broadcast again, this time to the entire Veth Dominion. Kethos Prime belongs to humanity now. 4 billion of your people live today because I allow it. They will continue to live as long as you do nothing foolish. They will work. They will eat. They will sleep safely. This is my gift to them. He paused, letting his words travel across the stars. You killed 6 billion of us without hesitation. You gave us no warning. You offered no mercy. You did not even consider that we might be worth saving. Remember this moment. Remember that I hold 4 billion Veth lives in my hands, and I choose not to crush them. Remember this mercy. It is the last you will receive. The Veth Supreme Commander watched the broadcast from his throne on the homeworld. Around him, his advisors whispered and argued. Some demanded immediate counterattack. Others urged caution. All of them were afraid. What does he want? The Supreme Commander asked. Territory? Resources? Surrender? No one could answer. They did not understand humans. They had never tried to understand them. Prey did not need to be understood. It only needed to be consumed. On Kethos Prime, Counselor No Sumin walked through the occupied capital city. She saw Veth civilians going about their lives. Children playing in parks. Workers traveling to jobs. Soldiers standing guard but not threatening anyone. She found Jinho in the former government headquarters. He was studying maps of Veth space, planning the next phase of the war. Is this mercy genuine? She asked quietly. Or is it strategy? Jinho did not look up from his maps. Does it matter? It matters to me. He finally met her eyes. In the year since the war began, he had grown thinner, harder. The weight of command pressed down on him constantly. Every species in this galaxy is watching us, he said. They are waiting to see what humanity becomes. If we slaughter civilians, we become monsters. We become what the Veth said we were? Prey that fights back mindlessly. Animals that must be put down, he pointed at the maps. But if we show restraint here, we prove something. We prove that we are not just killers. We are conquerors. We can destroy, but we can also build. We can hate, but we can also choose not to hate. That is more terrifying than any weapon. Sumin considered this. And if the Veth counterattack? If they try to take Kethos back? They will try, Jinho admitted. And when they fail, they will know fear. Real fear. The kind that changes everything. That night, Lieutenant Choi Hanna reported to Admiral Jinho in his private quarters. She carried a data tablet with classified information. Phase 4 assets are in position, she said. 73 devices across Veth space. Military vessels. Orbital stations. Supply hubs. All waiting for activation. Jinho took the tablet. 73 points of light on a map of the Veth Dominion. 73 hidden weapons that could be triggered at any moment. And the homeworld? 12 devices planted. The palace. The military command. The Senate building. Everything we need. Jinho nodded slowly. Outside his window, the conquered city of Kethos spread toward the horizon. Lights flickered in homes where Veth families ate dinner, unaware of the forces gathering around them. We move on Vatha in 3 months, he said. Begin preparations. Hana saluted and left. Jinho stood alone in the darkness. He thought about mercy. He thought about revenge. He thought about the line between them and wondered if it still existed, somewhere in his mind. His daughter still screamed, 3 months. Then the Veth would learn what humanity had truly become. Vatha was beautiful from orbit. Oceans of deep purple stretched between continents of silver and gold. Cities glittered like jewels across the surface. This was the heart of the Dominion. The birthplace of the Veth species. The center of an empire that spanned 1,000 worlds. 1,200 warships formed a defensive sphere around it. Admiral, Jinho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Remembrance, and studied the enemy formation. His own fleet numbered just over 200 vessels. The mathematics were simple. The Veth outnumbered them 6-1. "They've gathered everything," Captain Yuna observed from her station beside him. "Every ship in the Dominion. Every warrior they could find." "Good," Juno said quietly. "I want them all here." Before the battle could begin, something unexpected happened. A diplomatic vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel between the two fleets. It broadcast identification codes from the Galactic Assembly. The highest authority in known space had come to intervene. Ambassador Relis appeared on Junho's communication screen. Behind him, a delegation of 12 species stood in ceremonial robes. "Admiral Jinho," Relis said formally, "the Galactic Assembly demands that you withdraw immediately. This attack on the Veth homeworld is unacceptable. It threatens the stability of the entire galaxy." Jinho let the silence stretch before responding. "Ambassador, where was this concern when Earth burned? The Assembly condemns what happened to your world. We have said this many times. But continuing this war will only 47 species watched my people die." Jinho's voice was cold and flat. 47 species with fleets and weapons and the power to stop it. None of you fired a single shot. None of you sent a single ship. You observed? You documented. You did nothing. Relish shifted uncomfortably. The internal affairs of member species, genocide is not an internal affair. The words cut through the diplomatic pretense like a blade. "The Veth killed 6 billion humans," Jinho continued. "They did not ask permission. They did not follow procedures. They came with poison and fire, and they slaughtered us like animals." And the galaxy watched. The galaxy did nothing. So I do not care what the galaxy demands now. He stood straighter, his thin frame somehow filling the screen. "You watched Earth die. Now you will watch the Veth answer for it." The diplomatic vessel withdrew. The Assembly had made its gesture. It had failed. Now there was nothing left but war. The Battle of Vetha began at dawn. Human ships surged forward in tight formations. Veth defenders opened fire with everything they had. Space filled with missiles and energy beams. Ships exploded on both sides. The darkness between stars became a storm of fire and death. Captain Yuna commanded the left flank. Her squadron of fast attack vessels tore through the Veth formation, drawing fire and creating openings. She lost 3 ships in the first hour. She did not mourn. There was no time. General Sunwoo waited aboard a troop transport, his soldiers ready for ground assault. They could not land until the orbital defenses fell. So they waited, watching the battle unfold, knowing that many of them would not survive the next few hours. The Veth fought hard. They had numbers. They had desperation. They had nowhere to retreat. For 3 hours, the battle raged without clear advantage. Then Dr. Kim Taiho activated the Spectre protocol across Veth space. 73 hidden devices released their payload simultaneously. On military vessels, in orbital stations, inside command centers, the biological weapon spread through air systems silently, invisibly. It touched only Veth cells. Humans stood unaffected while their enemies fell. Within the defensive fleet around Vetha, 12 ships suddenly went dark. Their crews stopped responding. They drifted lifelessly, unmanned tombs in the middle of battle. The Veth commanders could not understand what was happening. Ships fell out of formation. Communications filled with screaming and confusion. Warriors who had been fighting moments ago simply collapsed at their stations. What is this? The Veth Supreme Commander demanded from his palace. What are they doing to us? No one could answer. No one understood. The human fleet pressed forward. Without half their defenders, the Veth formation shattered. Ships scattered in panic. The road to the homeworld lay open. Captain Yuna led the assault on the orbital defense platforms. Her ship was hit twice, but she pushed through. By nightfall, the platforms were slag, and the sky belonged to humanity. General Sunwoo's troops landed at dawn the next day. 50,000 soldiers descended on the Veth capital. The streets became battlegrounds. Every building was contested. Every block cost lives, but the Veth were breaking. Their military leaders were dead, killed by the Spectre Protocol. Their communication networks were destroyed. Their people were terrified. They had spent centuries as conquerors. They did not know how to be conquered. On the third day, the Veth Supreme Council surrendered. Admiral Jinho walked through the ruins of the Senate building. Around him, human soldiers secured prisoners and collected weapons. Smoke rose from 1,000 fires across the city. The seat of an empire had fallen. The surviving Veth leaders knelt before him. The Supreme Commander, once the most powerful being in 1,000 systems, pressed his forehead to the ground. "We surrender," he said. "Please end this." Jinho did not respond immediately. Instead, he pulled out a data tablet. "I'm going to read names now," he said. "You will listen." And he began name after name. Human names, children, parents, teachers, farmers, artists, scientists, lovers, friends, every name was a life the Veth had stolen. Every name was a universe that had ended in fear and pain. He read for 6 hours. His voice never wavered. The Veth leaders knelt in silence, listening to the weight of their sins. When he finished, Jinho looked at the Supreme Commander. "Your species will survive," he said. "This was never about extinction. We are not you, but you will remember. Every generation of Veth will learn what you did. Every child will know the names of the 6 billion. You will carry this shame for as long as your species exists." He turned to his soldiers. "Lower their flag. Raise ours." Outside the Senate building, the banner of the Veth Dominion fell. In its place rose a new flag. It showed Earth, blue and beautiful, but scarred with the wounds of genocide. A reminder of what had been lost. A promise of what humanity had become. Across the galaxy, billions watched in silence. The Veth, masters of 1,000 worlds, had fallen. The humans, nearly extinct just 4 years ago, had risen from ashes to conquer their destroyers. Captain Yuna stood among the ruins and watched the flag rise. She thought of her parents. Her brother. The home she would never see again. She did not feel triumph. She did not feel satisfaction. She felt only exhaustion, and beneath it, the first stirring of an unfamiliar emotion. She felt empty. The war was over. The vengeance was complete. But as she looked at the broken city around her, she wondered what would fill the hollow space where her rage had lived. What were humans supposed to be now? Admiral Jinho wondered the same thing as he walked alone through the silent halls of the Veth Palace. He had won. He had kept his promise to the dead. But his daughter was not coming back. His wife was not coming back. 6 billion ghosts still haunted the stars. He stood at a window and watched the alien sun set over the conquered world. He had become a conqueror, a destroyer, a name that children across the galaxy would fear. He did not know if he was proud or ashamed, perhaps both. Perhaps that was the price of victory. 5 years after the war ended, trees grew in the ruins of Seoul. The radiation had faded. The poison had dispersed. Life, stubborn and persistent, pushed through the ash. Grass covered the mass graves. Flowers bloomed where children had died. Earth was healing, slowly, imperfectly, but healing. Park Jinho walked alone through what had once been his neighborhood. He was 57 now, retired from military service. His hair had turned completely white. His hands trembled sometimes when he tried to hold things steady. The war had taken everything from him, including parts of himself he had not known he could lose. He found the spot where his house had stood. Nothing remained but foundation stones covered in moss. He knelt and touched the ground, feeling the cool earth beneath his fingers. "I won," he whispered. "I kept my promise. I made them pay." The wind rustled through the young trees. Somewhere a bird sang. The world continued, indifferent to the weight of what had been lost. Jinho stayed there until sunset. Then he stood, brushed the dirt from his knees, and walked toward the shuttle that would take him back to orbit. He had built nothing since the war. He had destroyed everything he was meant to destroy. Now he did not know what to do with himself. On the moon, a memorial wall stretched for 12 kilometers. It held 6.2 billion names. Every human who had died in the genocide. Families came here to trace their fingers over loved ones' names. Children came here to learn about ancestors they would never meet. Jinho found his wife first, then his daughter, then his son. He touched each name and felt the familiar pain, dulled now but never gone. Grief had become part of him, like breathing. He did not know who he would be without it, Admiral Jinho. He turned. A young Veth woman stood nearby, her gray skin pale in the artificial light. She wore simple clothes and carried no weapons. Her posture was humble, almost afraid. "I am Ambassador Teth," she said quietly. "I was assigned to the Terran Federation last month. I hope to speak with you." Jinho studied her. She was young, too young to have participated in the genocide, but her species had done it. Her ancestors had pressed the buttons that released the poison. Her people had chosen murder. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want to understand," she said. "My generation did not vote for the genocide. We were children when it happened, but we carry the shame of it. We learn about it in school. We see the hatred in the eyes of other species when they look at us." She hesitated. "Is peace truly possible? Can your people ever forgive mine?" Jinho was quiet for a long time. He looked at the wall of names. 6 billion lives, reduced to letters carved in stone. "Peace is a choice," he said finally. "Your people chose slaughter. We chose survival. Now we both choose what comes next. But can you forgive us?" He considered the question honestly. "I cannot forgive what was done to my family. That wound will never heal. But I can choose not to hate your children for the sins of their grandparents. That is not the same as forgiveness. It is ... something else. Perhaps it is enough." The young ambassador bowed her head. "Thank you, Admiral. That is more than I expected." She left him alone with his dead on Earth. Counselor No Sumin was inaugurated as the first president of the Terran Federation. She was 60 years old now, tired but determined. The ceremony took place in a new city built near the ruins of Beijing. Millions watched from across human space. "We have survived the worst thing that can happen to a species," she said in her address. "We have been reduced to ashes. We have been rebuilt by rage. We have conquered those who sought to destroy us. And now we face the hardest task of all. We must decide who we will become." She looked at the camera, at the faces of the survivors and their children. "We can be conquerors forever. We can spend centuries punishing the Veth, reminding the galaxy of our strength, living in the shadow of our trauma. Or we can be builders, healers, creators. We can become something greater than the pain that forged us." Her voice softened. "I do not ask you to forget. I do not ask you to forgive. I ask only that you choose the future over the past. Our dead would not want us to live as ghosts forever." The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. Other species listened and wondered. What would humanity become? Conquerors or builders? Enemies or allies? The answer would shape the next 1,000 years. Captain Li Yuna now commanded the First Fleet, the most powerful military force in human history. She was 40 years old, decorated with every honor humanity could bestow. But she found no joy in her success. She stood on the observation deck of her flagship, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The scars were still visible from orbit. The brown patches. The empty spaces where cities had been. But there was green now, too. Rivers flowed clean again. Oceans teemed with life. Her first officer approached hesitantly. "Admiral Yuna? The Council requests your presence at the ceremony." "I'll attend shortly." She did not move. The war had defined her. Every skill she possessed, every instinct she had developed, was built for destruction. Now there was nothing left to destroy. She felt like a weapon without a target. A soldier without a war. What am I supposed to do now? She asked the empty space. The stars did not answer. Dr. Kim Tae-ho faced a tribunal in the new capital. His Spectre protocol had ended the war, but it had also killed 200 million Veth civilians. non-combatants, families, children. The weapon did not distinguish between soldiers and innocents. The prosecutor read the charges. Crimes against sentient life. Mass murder. The deployment of biological weapons against civilian populations. Taiho sat calmly, his face expressionless. How do you answer these charges? The judge asked. Taiho considered the question. I designed a weapon that ended the war. Without it, the battle for Vitha would have killed millions more on both sides. The Spectre Protocol was terrible, yes. But war is terrible. I do not apologize for what I did, he paused. However, I acknowledge the weight of it. 200 million deaths will follow me forever. If this tribunal decides I must pay for that weight, I will accept the judgment. The tribunal deliberated for 3 days. In the end, they sentenced him to 10 years of public service, working to rebuild Veth civilian infrastructure. Not prison. Not execution. Something more complicated than either. Teho accepted the sentence without complaint. Some prices, he understood, could never be fully paid. Lieutenant Choi Hana had disappeared after the war. Some said she died in the final assault on Vitha. Others claimed she lived among the Veth now. Watching them, ensuring they never forgot, the truth was simpler. She had retired to a small colony on the edge of human space. She grew vegetables. She read books. She tried to remember who she had been before the genocide turned her into a weapon. Some nights, she still woke screaming. Some days, she still saw Veth faces in every shadow. The war had carved itself into her bones. It would never fully release her, but she was learning to live with it, slowly, imperfectly. Like humanity itself, on the memorial moon, Jinho made one final visit to the Wall of Names. He was leaving tomorrow. A small colony on a distant world had offered him a home. A place to grow old quietly, away from the weight of history. He traced his daughter's name one more time. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, he whispered. I'm sorry the only thing I could give you was revenge. He stood there until the artificial night fell. Then he turned and walked away. Behind him, the wall stretched on forever. 6 billion names. 6 billion stories. 6 billion universes that had ended in 7 days of fire. Humanity had survived. Humanity had conquered. But the cost was carved into stone and written in scars that would never fully heal. The stars above were cold and distant, but somewhere among them, new cities were rising. New children were being born. New stories were beginning. The Veth had tried to extinguish humanity. Instead, they had taught it how to burn, and from those flames, something new was emerging. Not the old humanity of Earth, not the broken humanity of the genocide. Something forged in loss and tempered by rage. Something that would never be prey again. What it would become, only time would tell. But whatever it was, it would survive. It would remember. And it would never, ever forget.